Scuderia Ferrari has an extreme need to perform well in the Netherlands. The 15th round of the 2024 Formula One season plays a crucial role for the short-term future of the Italian team. While waiting for the important aerodynamic update package coming in September, the prancing horse must work to tighten its technical aspects. The key figures have revealed an interesting fact regarding the issues faced after the introduction of the new floor at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. It seems that the Ferrari engineers have understood the mistakes made. What remains unknown is the timing for fixing these problems. In the meantime, they arrive at Zandvoort, where the Maranello team has chosen a specific configuration. Once again, it involves a clear compromise that aims to hide the defects of the SF-24 and highlight the important features of the car. Ferrari has decided to move the car's center of pressure forward to reduce drag. The downforce will therefore be completed with the beam wing. This setup is below the optimal level studied for the Netherlands. It is a necessary choice in order to achieve good top speeds and avoid excessive drag, a main issue Ferrari has had in the first part of the 2024 Formula One Championship. It will also be interesting to see how the new setup regarding suspension schemes will work. This configuration is designed to better utilize ground clearance and achieve the necessary downforce without falling into troublesome aerodynamic pumping. Another interesting solution concerns the handling aimed at maximizing traction phases. The SF-24 is very strong on entry, but at the Zandvoort circuit, exit from slow corners is crucial for lap time. Therefore, in several points, entry speeds will need to be sacrificed with the goal of improving the car SF-24's traction. For now, let's take a detailed look at how things unfolded for Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in the first free practice session for the Dutch Grand Prix. The weather is causing problems in the start of FP1. As expected, rain has hit the Dutch track, and the climatic conditions are far from ideal. Additionally, there is a very strong wind, which obviously complicates aerodynamic aspects. For this reason, the session is at high risk at the moment. However, the Ferrari team is ready to get in their cars. The conditions of the track remain to be seen. Kevin Magnussen in his Haas is currently driving. 2 laps have shown how wet and currently impractical the asphalt is. He is followed by teammate Nico Hülkenberg, who after a spin and a walk on the gravel decides to return to the garage. Shortly after, it is Carlos Sainz's turn to assess the track conditions. His SF-24 single-seater is equipped with a set of full wet tires. After setting aside the warm-up lap with the warm-up mode engaged, the Spaniard tries to complete a lap. The gearbox is set to GX position 3. Carlos Sainz switches to race mode and starts pushing as much as he can. However, it takes him just 2 corners to realize it's better to back off and head to the pit lane. The Spaniard then makes a pit stop in an attempt to heat up the tires, which are currently too cold and do not offer the expected grip. The aim of this first run is clear. Besides checking the track conditions, Carlos Sainz gathered data on the car's drag on the straights and simultaneously assessed the hybrid system setup. When Carlos returns to the pits, it's his Maranello teammate's turn. Charles Leclerc hits the track with the same tires, Pirelli wets. The Monegasque driver shows a more aggressive driving style, although he is performing the same task. He then makes a pit stop for a tire change before heading back out. There are several adjustments to the steering because the SF-24 is struggling on track. Unlike Carlos Sainz, however, Charles Leclerc opts for a longer stint, actively working the steering wheel. The Monegasque driver displays surgical precision at the wheel and gradually improves his lap times. This first run is very important because, despite the conditions being far from ideal, it has still provided the team with valuable data for fine-tuning the Italian car. Somewhat unexpectedly, the sun appears in the Netherlands, which could significantly help dry the track, especially considering that the rain has eased. Carlos Sainz is inside the garage in front of the computers, off the car, checking the situation before going back out. Meanwhile, it is time to switch to intermediate tires. Max Verstappen does this, choosing a brand new set marked in green. This is the right choice because, although the Dutchman spins out in turn 11, fortunately without consequences, he lowers Leclerc's time by nearly 5 seconds. With about 20 minutes remaining in this first practice session at Zandvoort, television footage begins to show a dry line developing on the racing line. Carlos Sainz decides to get back in the SF-24 number 55 and leaves the pit lane. Intermediate tires for him. He performs the outlap vigorously before launching into his proper timed attempt. Unfortunately, an error quickly sends him outside track limits but without consequences. 2 minutes later, Charles Leclerc also returns to the Dutch asphalt, also with a set of brand new intermediates. After the long stint, Carlos Sainz shows a time that can be considered fairly balanced despite the less than optimal conditions. On this occasion, it is the Spaniard who sets a series of fast laps, while Charles Leclerc only evaluates the track conditions, 2 laps for him before returning to the pits. Throughout this, it is worth noting that Ferrari chose not to focus on the clock, concentrating instead on studying the setup of the SF-24 single-seater. McLaren brought the evolution of the MCL-38 to the first free practice session of the Dutch GP, and Lando Norris immediately demonstrated the value of the Papaya car, being the fastest with a time of 1.12.322 set on soft, slick tires at the end of the hour. This session did not allow for the collection of important data. Ferrari had fitted the SF-24 of Charles Leclerc, which had no modifications, with the deflectors, which were removed before the running began. Nico Hülkenberg with the Haas tested 3 different escape routes with the track still flooded and with strong, very inconsistent gusts of wind. Then the conditions significantly improved, allowing the drivers to get accustomed to the banked corners. McLaren is positioning itself as the strong favorite for the restart of the season after the summer break. Lando Norris was 0.01 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. The 3-time world champion, who also spun during his first flying lap on the soft tires, set a time of 1.12.523 with an RB20 that returned to the engine cover configuration without the bazooka. Scuderia Ferrari is not bringing updates to Zandvoort, but it is worth pointing out that there is something new on Charles Leclerc's SF-24 car. It's the engine, which the Maranello team installed for the Dutch FP1. It's the 4th power unit deployed this season on the Monegasque's car. Charles Leclerc will not receive a penalty this weekend, as each driver is allowed 4 engines for the entire 2024 Formula One season. If Ferrari were to deploy a 5th power unit on car number 16 in the future, Charles Leclerc would incur a 10-place grid penalty for that event. In addition to the internal combustion engine, Charles Leclerc also has a new turbo, MGUK, and exhaust system for the Dutch Grand Prix weekend at the Zandvoort circuit. Both the turbocharger and MGUK have also reached the limit allowed for the 2024 Formula One Championship, namely 4. FP1 at Zandvoort is officially in the books, a first session marked by extremely tricky conditions in the first 30-40 minutes, with rain and wind heavily impacting the team's activities, which makes it a largely unrepresentative session. This means the second free practice session becomes even more important for Ferrari and the rest of the teams to collect more relevant data and identify the ideal setups in view of the qualifying session on Saturday and the main even on Saturday afternoon, which are expected to take place in dry conditions.